I'm joined by Lewis Goodall for a few minutes, presenter of Sundays with Lewis Goodall on LBC, co-host of Global's podcast, The Newsagents as well, of course, to talk a little bit more about something I touched on with Sir James Cleverly just a moment ago. This £9 million donation from Christopher Harborne, former Conservative donor. What do we read into that shift?
Well, look, I mean, this is a mega donation. It's a huge donation coming at a very important time as we get into the long run up into the crucial elections in May in the Welsh Senate and the Scottish Parliament as well. £9 million, the largest single donation to any party from a single individual in British political history, excluding wills. This is, gentleman, Harborne is a aviation entrepreneur, crypto investor, born in Britain, but he lives in Thailand. He had previously given large sums to Farage's Brexit Party, which is, of course, the predecessor of Reform, but had not donated cash to the party since, had previously donated to the Conservatives. And that pulls, I mean, just in the third quarter of this year, Electoral Commission saying, Reform receiving a total of nearly 10.5 million in cash donations, Tories getting 4.5 million, Labour just under 2 million. So, obviously overwhelmingly weighted from the donation from this particular gentleman, Christopher Harborne. But nonetheless, as I say, it could not come at a better moment for two reasons. One, that long run up to those elections. But two, it sends a signal, of course, to potentially other big investors, potentially who have previously donated to the Conservative Party, that they are on a winning streak and you should back a winner, particularly if you want influence early on.
Well, remind me of the rules around the level of private donation that can be taken. Is it...
Well, it's not so much about the donations, about the period in which you spend it.
Right.
So you can't, in any particular sort of election period, either in the long, they call it the long campaign or the short campaign, there are cash limits per seat, per area, per electoral contest, and so on. But of course, so it's not necessarily the case that this whole 10 million, 9 million, I'm sure it won't be,
but
will be spent in a single contest.
Party activities generally.
And it's still a party which, of course, is relatively new. It's still building up its infrastructure. It does not have those established processes and established offices and network that, Conservative Party in one form or another is 2 centuries old. The Labour Party is 120 years old. Yes, it's true that Farage has had previous, at various different outfits in terms of UKIP and the Reform Party, but they are sort of basically still nascent in building the infrastructure up. So it is important. It matters. Also, crucially, I mean, it's much less important in terms of money, but also worth noting as well, much smaller donation that came in for Reform in this quarter from one Lady Rothermere, who, of course, is the wife of Lord Rothermere, the owner of the Daily Mail, which is quite an intriguing... 50 grand, so it doesn't mean much in terms of the money, but as a signal of potential political intent for the Mail newspapers about the political direction of travel, particularly at a time when Rothermere himself is looking to buy the Telegraph and potentially create a super newspaper group, owning both the Telegraph and the Mail, the kind of house organs of the right wing of British politics.
Reform will be pleased with that.
Potentially extremely pleased with that.
What did you make of James Cleverly's, I would argue, robust response to my suggestion that the Tories were on their knees?
Look, let's see who's been leading the charge on holding the government to account for the lies that were told in the lead up to the budget. It's not the Lib Dems, it's not the Greens, it's certainly not Reform. It's Kemi Badenoch, it's Mel Stride, it's the shadow cabinet that are leading the calls for the government.
Well, that's because you're the opposition.
Well, look, I think it's fair to say two things can be true at once. I sometimes think that we forget this. The Conservative Party has never been more marginal in British politics. That's an extraordinary thing to say, right? The Conservative Party, historically speaking, is the party of the British state. It was in office for 66 of the 100 years of the 20th century. It was in office for 14 years of this century. It has dominated British politics for long as modern democratic politics has been a thing. We all thought in 1997 that John Major, taking the party, I think, to 167 seats in 97, 163 seats, what's 5 seats between friends, was the lowest that they were ever going to sink. Now they're on 120 seats, right? They have never been more marginal. So the task of rebuilding, Cleverly was putting on a brave face with it, the task of rebuilding is gargantuan. It's also true to say that I think, in fairness, that, during what has been a very arid period for Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives, where very often they've struggled just to get into the conversation, full stop, politically, it's basically been a Reform-Labour conversation. That's how both parties have pitted it. Kemi Badenoch's not had a bad period, particularly around the period of the budget. She's clearly enjoying herself in Prime Minister's Questions a bit more. And crucially, Sheila, she's getting into the conversation. And I think that this is the kind of lesson for over the past couple of weeks which is something Labour and the Tories ought to think about. If they're really serious about vanquishing Reform, they are less salient in the conversation when the conversation is about the economy. Because what they have to say generally on the economy is less newsworthy, less controversial,
It's not their
arresting.
USP
No,
in
it's
the way
not.
it has been
in
for
a
the
way
Tories,
that immigration or culture and so on. And the Tories, and perhaps this is one of the surprising things about the polling, we perhaps might have thought that post the Trust debacle and so on, that the Conservatives' reputation for economic management might have been shattered, as it was after Black Wednesday in 1992, basically until 2008. It hasn't been. They're actually polling best on any issue of any party on the handling of the economy. So that's something that Badenoch knows and something that she is hammering and doing reasonably well
Residual trust still there.
Indeed so.
Thank you very much,
Well, wait
Lewis.
a minute, Sheila. We can't get through one of our little sessions without having a bit of trivia about a pope, can we?
Oh, come on. Have you got some?
I've got, you know which pope was given an Indian elephant named Hanno by King Manuel I of Portugal?
King Manuel I of Portugal. When did he reign?
Well, this particular pope reigned from 1513 to 1521. Early 16th century we're talking here.
Urban.
Ah, no. Pope Leo X. Hanno the elephant lived in the Vatican, was taught to kneel before the Pope, and was fed a special diet of wine-infused water, which I think sounds quite nice.
Jam shed?
Yeah. No. The Pope would never go that rough, Sheila.
I would.
Yeah, I know you would.